Hello everyone and welcome to Rollinish. My name is Matt, and in this video we're going to introduce you to the Warlock class. Now, there's a lot going on in this class, as I usually refer to it as the most collaborative of all the classes. And what I mean by that is that you as the player should be working hand in hand with your DM on crafting this character. The reason for that is because a warlock gets their power from a patron. This is going to be some outer worldly entity. It could be a demon, a devil, a fiend, a fae, a alien aberration like creature like an elder brain, a mind flayer, something not of this world. It does not have to be a deity. Although there probably are some aspects that are going to be similar to a way a cleric might communicate with their deity, a warlock may be communicating with their patron. Warlocks are driven by their thirst for knowledge and power, and they're not going to achieve this by way of just born innate magic like a sorcerer or through study like a wizard. No, the warlock is going to often be driven to a life of adventure for that thirst for knowledge and power. And they are beholden and sworn to their patron by some type of an agreement or pact. This is how they get their magic. It is typically an agreement or pact that is made between the warlock and the patron. Give me power and I'll give you this, right? In common, in our world today, it's very common to hear a phrase like sold their soul to the devil. Yeah, it's basically what this is. But yeah, so based on this agreement or pact, it's going to shape what cantrips, what spells, what rituals you get, what features are available to you based on the not only the patron that you choose, but the nature of the agreement, which makes this such an interesting and fun class to play. So choosing your patron, the nature of your meeting, the nature of the pact or agreement that is made, that is something that you really want to work on with your dungeon master, because your DM is the one who's going to portray your patron in those moments of role play. So it would be a really good idea to work with your DM during character build and while you're coming up with ideas for your backstory. Because if you collaborate in that fashion, it's going to make for such great scenes and role play at the table, because you're in sync with this collaborative story that you're telling. So that being said, my friends, creating a warlock is going to be fun, and your player's handbook suggests that you focus on charisma as your primary ability score. This is because your spells are fueled by your charisma modifier, but also it makes sense, right? Because you have an agreement or a pact with a patron, and your communication with that patron is going to be essential for your character. So that is charisma based, and so it makes sense to make that your primary ability score. The next one you should focus on is going to be Constitution. And this is because a vigorous sneeze is likely going to knock you down. Like the sorcerer, like the wizard, you do not have a lot of proficiency when it comes to weapons and armor. So you're going to want to focus on Constitution to give yourself that bigger health pool and keep you around on the battlefield. It all starts in building your warlock with this table. It's going to show you in your book where you get your proficiency bonus, when you get certain features at what levels, and the amount of cantrips and spells that you know. What you're going to find interesting about this table is the lack of spell slots. At most, you will have 4, but that's okay, because you have something unique to you called invocations, and you have a certain number of those to spend. So while we introduce you to Warlock in this video, we're going to make a second video that is dedicated to all the Eldritch invocation options available for your Warlock. We're also going to spend a little bit of time in a third video just diving into the outer worldly patrons that are listed in your player's handbook. And this is going to be a good resource for both DMs and players alike to get a good feel for how to portray the patron as a DM and how to communicate with the patron as the player and how that dynamic should play out at the table. So head over to our playlist and check those out when you're done watching this one. Okay, when it comes to hit points, the Warlock is actually going to get a D8. So this is the diamond-shaped one, depending on your angle and how you're looking at it. Could be square head-on or it could be diamond-shaped. But that is a little bit better than what your friends who are playing Sorcerer and Wizard get, because they only get a D6. You're going to be more akin to like a Rogue who gets a D8. And you're going to roll this anytime you level up or anytime you take a short rest to recover hit points. As far as proficiencies are concerned, you only get proficiency in light armor, simple weapons. So we're talking daggers, quarterstaff, sickle, right? No tool proficiency. In saving throws, you're going to be proficient in wisdom and charisma. And as far as skills are concerned, you can choose 2 from Arcana, Deception, History, Intimidation, Investigation, Nature, and Religion. As far as equipment is concerned, you start with the following: either a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or any simple weapon. I would opt for the crossbow here because you don't have a lot of tool proficiency when it comes to melee. You only have a D8 for hit dice, so you're not going to have as a big a health pool as some of the frontline fighters. You're going to want to hang back and spellcast, and when you quickly run out of those spell slots, you're going to want to use your cantrips or maybe a crossbow to stay out of harm's way. A component pouch or an arcane focus, we've talked about this in other videos. This depends on the spellcasting system you are using. There is a camp of people who like to use components, and every spell lists components, and usually there's some kind of somatic, like hand gesture. There's usually a verbal component, but there's also material components. So if you're going to be using material components as spell casting, those are the things that you need to cast certain spells. So those are the things that you need to focus on when you do your shopping episodes. If you're not going to be consuming components, which is adds a little bit more of a level for difficulty, then you're going to go with the arcane focus. And the arcane focus could literally be anything: a wand, a quarterstaff. That is what your magic comes out of. Then you choose a Dungeoneer's pack, pretty standard, or a Scholar's pack. Scholar's pack is going to be a little bit different. Instead of getting, pythons and rations and torches, you're going to get a book of lore, a bottle of ink, an ink pen, 10 sheets of parchment, a little bag of sand, and a small knife. Okay, maybe that's for opening letters and so on. And then you're going to get leather armor, any simple weapon, and 2 daggers. This is where I'm going to probably grab my quarterstaff. I've got leather armor. It's the only armor I'm proficient in, so that's probably the armor I'm using forever. I am going to grab my quarterstaff here, and I'm going to get 2 daggers, which is why I took the crossbow up top. You could do whatever you want. These are your options. At first level, all Warlocks, they get their otherworldly patron. Like I said, we're going to do a separate video diving into the 3 options that are in your player's handbook, which are the Archfey, the Fiend, and the Great Old One. But based on the patron that you choose, you're going to get features at first level, 6th, 10th, and 14th, based on what you choose as your patron. This is where your backstory is going to come into play immediately, because maybe the scene enters with the Warlock walking through the forest, talking to seemingly no one at all. But really they're talking to their patron, and they can hear their patron. But the rest of the party might be at a campfire and see this weird person walking in the woods talking to themselves. That is a great way to kick off introducing your Warlock. I've seen that done before. But maybe you craft together, what is the nature of your relationship? Does the campaign start with you already knowing each other? Does the campaign begin with technically the Warlock at level 0? And along the way, something happens that you construct as the DM in the first session that introduces the patron to the Warlock. I love that because I feel like it gives your players so much freedom and option to introduce, like, not only introduce their character into the campaign, but introduce the patron into the campaign. And then how do they, communicate this relationship to the party of adventurers that they're joining, right? So very collaborative way of looking at that. You're also going to get access to your spell casting abilities. This is where you're going to grab a couple of cantrips. You'll learn a couple of spells. You have very limited spell slots, but we'll get into that. And then at second level, you gain Eldritch Invocations. This is a different and unique ability that Warlocks have. You gain 2 invocations of your choice at second level. And there is a list of them in your player's handbook. Again, we're going to focus on and go through each of them in a separate video. But when you gain certain Warlock levels, you can gain additional invocation options to choose from. And when you gain a level in the Warlock class, you can choose one of the invocations and replace it with another one as long as you've met the prerequisites for that invocation. For example, some of them you need to wait until you're at least 7th level to get access to it. But it's really cool, and it's a good way to think of Eldritch Invocations almost like a Warlock feat. And there are plenty of examples that could be specific spells, specific skills, permanent additions to ability scores. And some examples include maybe at 7th level, you learn how to cast Detect Magic at will without expending a spell slot. That's pretty advantageous. Or at level 9, you can permanently increase your proficiency or gain proficiency in Deception and Persuasion. Those are both charisma based, and it makes sense that your Warlock at 9th level would gain those things. So knowing that that is an option, you should think about that as you build this character. Maybe you map out certain choices for these invocations at certain levels, because if I know I'm going to get proficiency in Deception and Persuasion at 9th level, perhaps when building my character, I'm going to choose 2 other things from my skills to be proficient with at 1st level, right? If I'm getting, Persuasion and Deception at 9th level, maybe I don't take Deception at first when I build my character. Maybe I take Intimidation and, Investigation, something like that. So it's a good way to think about and try and plot out what you're going to do and think about it ahead of time. This is one of those classes where you really should sit down and map out at certain levels what you're interested in taking. And it's okay that those things change along the way, but it's a good idea to have a plan. At 3rd level, all Warlocks get something called a Pack Boon. This is a gift given to you by your patron for your loyal service. And there are 3 options. Now, I've been a DM where I've had Warlocks at my table, and I always allow them the choice first. Of these 3 things in your player's handbook, which one are you most interested in taking? I also offer an alternative where I pick it for them, and I just put it on their sheet, and we role play that moment in receiving the gift. And I've done that, and that's gone over so well. My players really enjoyed it, but that's the thing. I communicated with my player, hey, if you want me to choose it, I'll choose it for you. Here's what I'm thinking, and here's why. And I always explain that, and it works out very, very well. That open communication is important when you're playing a Warlock. Your DM's going to be heavily involved. But those 3 options are Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Blade, and Pact of the Tome. And each one have some unique abilities. First, the Pact of the Chain is going to allow you to cast and learn Find Familiar without counting against the number of spells that you know. So it's like a freebie, and you can cast it as a ritual, so it won't burn a spell slot. When you cast the spell, you could choose one of the normal forms for your familiar. Those are listed in the spell. Or you could pick something special like an imp, a pseudo-dragon, a quasit, or a sprite. Additionally, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forgo one of your attacks to allow your familiar to attack with their reaction, which is pretty cool. Because some of the newer options that are special and unique to the Warlock class, like Pseudo Dragon, have like a sting and can do certain very cool things. Okay, so Pact of the Blade. This is the option you're going to create, which what it does is it allows you the ability to create a weapon in your hand. So it's literally like, I've always described it as like a shadow. It looks like a shadow of a weapon, but it works like a weapon, and it counts as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistances and immunities to non-magical attacks. So that's pretty cool. And you can use your proficiency bonus when you swing this weapon. So that's very cool. So this gives you an ability to make a weapon, and you can flavor it however you want, assuming that you're going to use actual weapon options from Chapter 5 in your player's handbook. Listen, I've had it described as like, a weapon like Mortal Kombat, like Scorpion has the blade come out of his palm and it shoots chains to grab someone and pull them closer to them. I've had them describe that. Okay, well, what weapon do you want to base that off of? A flail? Do you want to base that off of like dagger damage? Because for flavor, you can make it look like anything, but you want to make sure that you are using a weapon that is actually has game mechanics to it. In addition to creating this weapon, it disappears if it's more than 5 feet away from you for 1 minute or more. It also disappears if you use this feature again. So if you use your ability to craft a new weapon, the first one disappears. You can't dual wield with Pact of the Blade. You also could take an actual existing weapon and do an hour-long ritual on that weapon to make that your pact weapon. And so that's a really cool thing. So if you've got like a family heirloom in your backstory that you wield, maybe you use your pact to imbue that weapon with magic and make it more like bonded to you, for lack of a better word. All right, the third option is Pact of the Tome. This one is going to be a book that is given to you by your patron called the Book of Shadows. When you pick this option, you get 3 cantrips of your choice from any class's spell list. This is a very popular feature, at least in my experience, with Warlocks, because you could go into the cleric spell list and grab a cantrip from there. Go to the wizard one and grab one from there, right? So it doesn't matter from what list you grab it from, and they don't have to be from the same list. And because you're very limited in the amount of spells that you can cast as a warlock, especially early on, this seems like a great option to get a little bit more at your disposal and lean into the magic more than anything else. So if you look at it, you've got almost like a pet option, a weapon option, and a magical option, if you want to look at it that way. At 4th level, and again at 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th, you get your ability score improvement. And as a reminder, this is where you could take one of your ability scores and increase it by 2 points, or 2 of your ability scores and increase it by 1 point. Talk to your dungeon master, though, because a lot of DMs will allow you to forego the ability score improvement and choose a feat. Just make sure that that is something that your DM is okay with. Every campaign is different, but that is something I allow at my table as well. There are a lot of really cool feats out there, ones that help you wear better armor, ones that allow you access to better weapons, ones that allow you access to different spells from different class lists. So if you want to even take that a step further, you can with a feat. Maybe you take the Pact of the Blade and choose Magic Initiate Wizard and get some cantrips and spells from that spell slot when you take the Magic Initiate Wizard feat. There's a lot of different ways that you can maneuver around and get yourself some pretty cool features. At 11th level, you get a feature called Mystic Arcanum. This is when your patron bestows upon you a magical secret. And what this is going to allow you to do is choose a 6th level spell from the Warlock spell list and that is your gift. So this is another gift from your patron. And you can cast this without expending a spell slot. Okay? So it's a free 6th level spell. That's pretty powerful. Then, of course, you need to take a long rest to replenish that. Now, at higher levels, you are bestowed even more. You can gain more Warlock spells of your choice that can be cast in this way. One at 7th level. You get a 7th level spell at 13th level. You get an 8th level spell at 15th level. And you get a 9th level spell at 17th level. You can regain all uses of your Mystic Arcanum when you finish a long rest. So the ability to grab a 6th and potentially a 7th, 8th, 9th level spell and cast it without burning a spell slot is what makes you so powerful as a Warlock. Warlock can be very challenging to play, especially at those lower levels where you're not hitting as hard and your health pool is very low, you're limited in your spell slots, you might even be limited in your Eldritch invocations at first. But if you can survive, if you can make it, you're going to do incredible things because of the power that you're going to have access to. And this is what makes Warlock so intriguing to play. Lastly, at 20th level, you have a feature called Eldritch Master. You can draw on your inner reserve of magical power while you're entreating your patron to regain expended spell slots. You can spend a minute entreating your patron for aid to regain all your expended spell slots from your Pact Magic feature. Once you regain spell slots with this feature, you must finish a long rest before you can do it again. I liken this to like Arcane Recovery, which is a feature that wizards get to regain a certain amount of spell slots. This is similar to that. And to be able to be a 20th level Warlock who can regain spell slots, who can cast 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th level spell slot, a spell without burning a slot because of your Mystic Arcanum ability, this is what makes you extremely powerful. So I just really think that this is a very dangerous class to play. But if you can survive with the limited features that you have early on, you're probably going to be one of the most powerful members of your party at later stages in your game, which makes it a ton of fun. So that's the introduction to Warlock and what all Warlocks get. Come right back here to our playlist and we're going to talk about the otherworldly patrons and some of the features you get when you choose said patron. And we're also going to do another video on all the Eldritch invocations and some of the features and things that you get when you choose them. And I'm just scrolling through the player's handbook now to show you that there are a ton of Eldritch invocations and things that you can get. And so we're going to cover all that in a separate video. Until then, have fun building your Warlock. Keep those lines of communication open with your DM when you're building this character, and we'll see you at the table.